All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are now going to preview the third divisional round matchup. Sorry, I almost said wild card. Divisional round matchup between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Detroit Lions. So these two teams met earlier in the season, like the Ravens and the Texans. They met back in Week 6, and that was in Tampa, and the Lions won that game 20-6. I did go over that earlier in the week. But the Bucs, they're coming in off of a win against the Eagles, a blowout win against the Eagles. Lions coming off of that close, the best game of the weekend. Rams, Lions, they're coming off of a close victory against them, winning 24-23. So, yeah. And, again, in the first matchup during the regular season, David Montgomery got hurt in that game, and there was no Jahmyr Gibbs. Craig Reynolds ended up being the lead rusher for the Lions. So now the Bucs are going to have to deal with Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs has been playing really well for the Lions in the second half of the season. David Montgomery has over 1,000 yards rushing, 13 rushing touchdowns. So, yeah, this is going to be a tough game for the Bucs. I don't really like the matchup here. Again, similar to Jordan Love, the Bucs, they got to give Baker Mayfield time to throw. And Baker played well against the Eagles. He threw for over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, although he should have had a pick in the game. He almost got intercepted a couple times at least. Mike Evans really didn't have a big game. It was really Trey Palmer and David Moore. I mean, they had those long touchdown receptions. You got to get Mike Evans more involved. Chris Godwin had a touchdown. You got to get him involved. The problem is the Bucs, again, they're a team also that really hasn't run the football that well. Rachaad White has had a good year. Actually has almost 1,000 yards rushing. He does have 6 rushing touchdowns, but they're not a very good rushing team. The Lions, however, are a very good rushing team with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. And Jared Goff has played really well this year. And Baker Mayfield's played really well this year, too. This game, though, I'm going with the favorite. I'm going to take the Lions. The Bucs are getting 6.5, but I'm going to take the Lions in this game. But let's go through the league rankings first with these teams. So the Lions, 4th in passing yards per game. The Bucs are 18th. The Lions are 5th in rushing yards per game. The Bucs are dead last. They're averaging 88.8 rushing yards per game. And then points per game, Lions are 5th. The Bucs are 20th, scoring an average of 20.5 points per game. And then on the defensive side of the ball, both teams are bottom of the league in pass defense. The Lions are 29th, and the Bucs are 30th. And the Lions are actually 2nd against the run this year, in rushing yards per game, giving up an average of 88.8. And the Bucs are 5th, giving up 95.3. So we'll see how they match up against this Lions rushing attack, but I think they're going to have problems. And then points allowed, the Bucs defense is actually 6th, and the Lions defense is 23rd. So, I mean, you would say, hey, Tampa's defense has been good. But, now we'll see when they go up against the Lions. I mean, Jared Goff threw for 353 yards in the first matchup. They really didn't have Montgomery. They didn't have Gibbs. So it's going to be a different game. And the Bucs, they only scored 6 points. I think there's going to be more scoring in this game. I don't think we're going to see 20-6, but I think it's going to be a tough matchup for the Bucs here. I mean, they're going to have to run the football. They're going to have to find some success. And that's another team, too, going into the offseason. They got to get somebody else to pair with Rachaad White. Because Rachaad White can make plays in the passing game more so. You got to get another running back in there. And I did bring up his name yesterday, but Derrick Henry's a name to think about. Because, he did say he wants to go to a Super Bowl contender, and I don't think he would look at the Bucs as being that. But, hey, they're in the playoffs. The Cowboys, they're talking about him going there. Well, listen, the Bucs, they technically got further than the Cowboys, so maybe you want to go there instead. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. But I think that's one thing that the Bucs are going to have to address is maybe getting another running back to pair with Rachaad White, whether it's through the draft or free agency. That's just one thing I could think of. But yeah, I mean, for me with the Bucs, they're gonna have to. This game is gonna be a shootout because I mean, you saw in the Rams game. I mean, the Rams defense was struggling to stop the Lions' offense. Stafford had to put up points, and he did. The Rams. I thought they were gonna pull it out at the end, but they fell a little short. But yeah, I mean, Baker's going to have a game like he had against the Eagles. You're going to have to throw for over 300 yards. You're going to have 3 touchdowns in the game. Get Mike Evans more involved. Get Chris Godwin involved. And the other thing, too, is for the Bucs receivers, can't have any drops in this game. You got lucky because the Eagles just really couldn't do anything on offense the whole game. The Lions are going to be different. The Lions are going to do what they did against the Rams. They're going to score 3 touchdowns on their first 3 drives, right? I think that's what it was. You're going to have to match that. And I don't know if they're going to be able to, and especially because, again, they're playing in Detroit. I know they are not playing outside because, you know what I'm talking about with the reporter asking Todd Bowles about preparing his team for the cold weather. You're inside. It's weather's not going to be a factor here. So both quarterbacks are going to be throwing. I mean, I think Baker's going to throw for he's going to have a decent game here, but I just think ultimately the Lions are the better team, and they won without Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, and now they got them both for this game. It's gonna be a tough go for the Bucs here, but again, the Baker Mayfield story. I'm so happy that at least for this year he was able to find success and put together a good season. I mean, I think it was statistically his best year as a starting quarterback. Over 4,000 yards passing, 28 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. That's a good year for him, and able to to put the Bucs in the position to get to the second round. I mean, people looked at Tampa as probably going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL, and that was not the case. And it didn't look good at certain points. They started off well, then they went on that losing streak, and then they started trending up again. They really got back on track when they beat the Falcons the second time. And yeah, I mean, finishing the season 9-8, win a playoff game. Now you're going up against the 3 seed in the Lions. We'll see. Again, anything can happen. I just think it's not a good matchup for them. But I did see, so my friend sent yesterday a quote by C.J. Gardner-Johnson from the Lions, and he basically said if the Bucs had a good quarterback, those receivers, I forget what exactly he said, if I can find it, because I know my friend sent it yesterday. Let's see if I could pull it up, because there's a lot of stuff that was sent in this sports chat. Just a lot of stuff gets sent, so now I don't know where it is. Let me see. But yeah, he basically kind of threw a little bit of shade at Baker Mayfield, and that could be motivation for Baker to say, all right, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to prove you guys wrong. Oh, yeah, so here it is. If you give that Tampa group a good quarterback, that's a great group. That's basically what he said. So, I mean, listen, Mike Evans had a better year this year with Baker Mayfield than last year with Tom Brady. And again, I don't want to say, that, Baker's better than Tom Brady, but at least for comparing the 2022 Brady to 2023 Baker was the better quarterback. I mean, Tom Brady, the first couple of years in Tampa, he was unbelievable. But, last year it was tough. They had offensive line injuries, and Brady had to get rid of the ball quickly. And listen, Brady was 45. He can't move around. He doesn't want to get hit. So that's why he was constantly checking down to Leonard Fournette. And Mike Evans, I think, only had like 6 or 7 touchdowns the whole year, and in one game he had 3 touchdowns. But with Baker this year, he was great. It's been great. So listen, Baker's had a good year, and if it comes to an end, I'm hoping that the Bucs give him an extension, and this is his home moving forward, and the Bucs can build around him and try to get this team back up to, being, more than just a playoff contender. Now, again, I don't know if Baker Mayfield's going to be the guy for the next 10 years or so, but I think at least in the immediate future, he's going to be the starter, and I think he's earned the right to do so. I mean, he had a great year, and again, the Bucs are in this position. One of the main reasons is because of him. I think they also got to make sure that they figure out the contract situation with Mike Evans and get him back. But I'm happy that he was able to have a good year, and hopefully that this is his home moving forward. At least for the immediate future, it looks like that. It looks that way. Again, I'm taking it season by season. But listen, whoever moves on from this game, I'll be happy. The Lions. I mean, it's the Bucs. Listen, you guys won the Super Bowl because of Tom Brady back in 2020. The Lions, they have not had any kind of success for a long time. They just won their first playoff game in 30-plus years. Now they are one game away from getting to an NFC Championship game. And, they're hoping that they can get that done. And the people of Detroit deserve that. I saw that I think David Montgomery was at like a gas station, and a woman came over to him crying, thanking him for, them winning the playoff game against the Rams, and she hugged him, and that just shows that they really, it's been a rough time for the Detroit fans, and this team is special, and Dan Campbell has turned that team around. Jared Goff, I mean, again, his story too with the Rams trading him to the Lions. The Rams got their Super Bowl, and now Jared Goff was able to give the people of Detroit a playoff win for the Lions, which is something Stafford wasn't able to do. So I mean, there's great stories all around going into this game. So I mean, I'll be happy with whoever wins, but I'll kind of be upset with whoever loses, because I was happy Baker was able to succeed. And again, I like what the Lions have been able to do, what Dan Campbell, the culture that he's built. If the I mean, it's going to be soul crushing if the Lions lose on Sunday. With the Bucs, I mean, it's not going to be like that. But the Lions, if they lose, is going to be more depressing, just because of again, them getting to this point and finally winning a playoff game. And if it all comes to an end against the Bucs, that just that would be unfortunate. But for me, I think that the Lions win this game. I think they win. I'm gonna say they win 30 to. I'm gonna say 30-20. I think that's the final score. But we'll see. For the Bucs, I mean, they're gonna have to, contain that rushing attack. But then you're gonna have to deal with Sam Laporta and AmonRaSt.Brown. That's really where it's gonna be a problem, is the passing game. And the Lions have one of the better balanced attacked offenses in the league. It's a tough matchup. So the Bucs are gonna have to put up points. Gonna have to get your playmaker. You're gonna have to get Mike Evans more involved, because he really didn't have a big game against the Eagles, but he didn't have to, because the Bucs just dominated the Eagles. So, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But let me know what you guys think on how you think this game is going to turn out. And with that, when we come back from our final break of the show, the best for last, we will preview Mahomes-Allen Part 3 of the playoffs. Now, it's been more than just, they played each other plenty of times. But at least in the postseason, this is Part 3. So we're going to preview that, and I will let you know who I think is going to win. And that's what we'll do to conclude the show. So, for one more time, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.